my name is Mayra Agüero from Rio Grande, Zacatecas. I welcome you to studying the lesson in its English edition. Let's learn together this week's memory verse. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Joshua chapter 1, verse 7. God bless you.
The story of Joshua begins at a decisive point for Israel. Moses had died, and the people now had to face the challenge of conquering the Promised Land. Joshua's leadership represented not only a transition but also the confirmation that God was still directing the history of his people. The narratives of this first week show us that the Lord never stopped guiding Israel, not even for a moment, and that his faithfulness remained unshakable. In Joshua chapter 1 we find key words that would mark the course of the entire book. Cross over, possess, divide, and serve. These verbs are not mere military or social actions, but spiritual expressions of the mission of God's chosen people. Every stage of their journey was, in reality, a response to what God had already promised. Thus, the inheritance of the land, the courage needed to face challenges, true prosperity, and faithfulness to the law are all integrated into a broader vision. Living under the constant presence of the Lord. What we have studied throughout this week reminds us that God does not change. His promises, his guidance, and his character remain the same for us today. Just as in the time of Joshua, the Lord calls us to trust in what he has already promised and to respond with faithful obedience, even when the outlook seems daunting. This review seeks to integrate the lessons of each day and lead us to reflect on the meaning of being guided by a God who always fulfills what he promises. Welcome, my name is Augusto Palacios, and this is Studying the Lesson. Friday, October the 3rd. The formula for success. Review. On Sunday, we saw how the transition from Moses to Joshua reflected the continuity of God's plan. Although Moses was Israel's great leader, the true protagonist was always God. Joshua was nothing more than an instrument in the Lord's hands, a new Moses who had to learn that the strength of the people did not lie in military strategies but in the promise of the living God. This teaches us that leaders come and go, but God's work endures. The emphasis is on who directs, not on who executes. On Monday, we learned that the book of Joshua is structured around four major movements: crossing over, possessing, dividing, and serving. This sequence is not accidental. Each stage depends on God's initiative and the faithful response of the people. The journey and conquest could not be sustained without obedience, and the division of the land would lose its meaning if it did not culminate in genuine service to the Lord. The very structure of the book is a reminder that every blessing received carries spiritual responsibility. On Tuesday, we reflected on what it means to be heirs of the promises. Israel was to conquer a land that had already been given to them in the Lord's words. This apparent contrast between the already and the not yet reveals the nature of divine promises. They are secured, but require faith and obedience to be experienced. For us, heirs of the promise of salvation in Christ, the lesson is clear. We live with confidence in what God has already guaranteed, even though we still await its full realization in eternity. On Wednesday, we were reminded of the exhortation. Be strong and courageous. Joshua faced impregnable walls and powerful armies, but the real challenge was not military, it was spiritual. The courage God demanded was tied to faithfulness to the Torah, to obedience to the law, and to trust in His divine presence. For us today, the call to be strong and courageous means standing firm in the midst of a world hostile to the values of the kingdom, trusting that Christ fights our battles. On Thursday, we analyzed the biblical concept of prosperity and success. The Lord assured Joshua that he would prosper if he meditated on the law day and night. This redefines our human notions of success, for it links it directly to obedience and wisdom that come from God. To prosper is not to accumulate wealth or achieve status, but to live in harmony with God's will, experiencing peace, stability, and spiritual fullness. This perspective protects us from the false dichotomy between grace and law, showing us that both complement one another within the same plan of salvation. Together, this week's themes draw a comprehensive picture of the Christian life. God calls, promises, and assures, but also asks for courage, obedience, and faith. The balance between what He does and what we must do is reflected in the experience of Joshua and the people of Israel. It is neither an empty human effort nor a passive trust, but a constant cooperation between divine grace and human response. This dynamic between promise and responsibility is the essence of the covenant. God guarantees the fulfillment of His word, but He also invites us to participate actively in it. Every step we take in faith is a confirmation that we believe in what He has said, and every practical obedience is an expression of trust in His character. Just as Joshua needed to be strong and courageous to conquer the land, we need the same courage to conquer today's spiritual battles. Finally, this review points us to Christ, the true fulfillment of all promises. He is the leader who never dies, the one who guides us to the eternal inheritance, and the one who secures for us true prosperity. Abundant life in His presence. Our calling is to live as heirs of that promise, walking by faith, obeying with courage, and trusting that His word always comes true. Be part of our interactive study on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and X or Twitter. Every day, Sunday to Friday, we post questions at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. Share your comments and experiences, and let's grow together in our learning.